We are now going to move on to our slip zip pocket. And here is where you are going to really need to pay attention to the dimensions and the orientation of your slip zip pocket liner. For the handbag, it's quite easy because we have a 10 by 10 inch square, but for the day bag, we have a 12 by 11 inch rectangle. So what we're going to do first is put these two pieces, the slip zip pocket pieces, right sides together and just align all edges. And if you're doing the day bag, you want to have this top edge be the 12-inch edge and this side edge be the 11-inch edge. For the handbag, it doesn't matter as much because both sides are 10 inches, but I will say that our pocket that we're going to sew into this is going to go this direction. So if you have directional print fabric, you're going to want it to face either that way or that way. If your directional print fabric faces this way, then your pocket will look sideways when it's in your bag. So for these measurements, you're going to want to measure 4 3/4 away from this edge here. For the day bag, you're going to measure 5 3/4 inches away from this edge. And this is the 11-inch edge if you're making the day bag. For the handbag, we're going to go 4 3/4. And we're going to draw a line all the way across. Now you can either measure 1/2 inch past the line, or you can go 4 3/4 away from this edge and draw another line. For the day bag, it would be 5 3/4 inches away from this edge. But either way, your lines will be 1/2 inch apart. So I'm just going to measure 1/2 inch past that first line. And now you have 2 lines down the center of your slip zip pockets. Now we're going to spin this so that the lines are going horizontally now. And for the day bag, your 11-inch size should be on the top edge and your 12-inch side should be on the side. And we are now going to mark 1 3/4 inches away from this edge. For the day bag, that's going to be the same measurements, 1 3/4 inches away from that edge. And I'm just going to draw a line connecting those 2 lines. Again, on the other side, so flip this all the way around, 1 3/4 inches, and draw a line there as well. So now you can see here I have a box in the middle of my slip zip pockets. Now we are going to make sure everything is still aligned with our 2 slip zip pocket pieces. And then we are going to stitch along the long edges of the box, stopping and starting at the short lines. So put your needle down right in the corner where the short line meets the long line, and then stitch all the way down the box and stop with your needle down in the corner where the short line meets the long line, again on the other side. I don't sew the short line because that could cause puckering once you flip this pocket right side out. Also, don't go past the short lines either, so just stop and start right where those are. And I like to go forward a couple and back stitch a couple and then go forward again. Okay, needle down in the corner, back stitch, and go forward again. Now I'm going to pick my needle up without cutting any of my threads. I'm going to put my needle down in the corner of the other side, back stitch, and just go down this edge. That way I don't have to cut my threads again. And then stop in the corner and back stitch. Okay, so I sewed right from the corner where the short line meets the long line, and I sewed all the way down to this corner here. And then I picked my needle up and I put it down on the other side, and I stitched all the way down here too, back stitching at the start and the stop. Next, we are going to cut a line up the middle of this box. So I like to fold this in half just roughly and make a snip. And we're cutting through both layers of the slip zip pocket. And that way I can get my scissors in here. And I'm gonna cut all the way up in between those two lines, just down the center. And when I get to about a 1/2 inch away from this short edge, I'm gonna tilt my scissors and snip into the corner, trying to get as close as I can into that corner without trimming any of the threads. And that creates this Y here at the edge of the box. And I'm going to turn this over and do the same on the other side, about a 1/2 inch away from the end. Pivot and clip into the corner here. Just snip really close, okay? So now we have an open box. Now we are going to take one of the layers of the slip zip pocket and pull it through the box we just sewed and clipped open. And now we should have wrong sides together and our zipper box looks like this. Go ahead and press this with your iron to get all of the edges super crisp. All right, my zipper box is pressed and nice and flat with crisp edges. And next we are going to set that aside and grab our 8.5 inch zipper. You want a 9.5 inch zipper if you're doing the day bag size. 8.5 for handbag, 9.5 for day bag. I'm gonna flame the ends. And we are going to run double-sided tape down both sides of the zipper. And lastly, we're going to add our zipper pull. All right, so next we're going to take the paper off the tape. And we are going to lay our zip slip pocket down over the zipper. And we're going to center the zipper within the pocket window. And we're also going to make sure that whatever side of the pocket we want to be the liner is going against the right side of the zipper. So the zipper's right side up and the zip slip pocket has the exterior right side up. Okay, make sure that that is all pressed down, and we are now going to top stitch all the way around all 4 edges of the zipper box. Okay, there is my completed sewn zipper box. And I didn't mention this before, but I do like to start my stitches somewhere along the edge that's going to be the back of your pocket. So this is going to eventually be folded over and you'll have this back edge of the pocket. And that's where I like to start and stop my stitches, because I can back stitch and it won't be super noticeable later, and I don't have to pull the strings to the back and tie them off. So next what you want to do is turn this right side up and trim any excess of the zipper so that it doesn't interfere with sewing the edge of the pocket. So I'm just going to trim that off right up close to the stitches. And you can flame these zippers again if you'd like by just folding back the pocket liner and hitting that with the flame. Just be careful not to cut or burn your pocket liner. So I'm just folding that back like that, and I'm taking a flame here. So next we're going to open the zipper all the way and have the exterior of your pocket facing right side up. And we're gonna take the bottom of your liner panels and we're gonna fold them up to meet the top of your liner panels. And just align all 4 layers of the material together and clip in place. You will be looking at the wrong side of the zipper, and you'll be looking at the liner of the pocket as well. So all 4 of these layers, just line them up as best as you can and clip them all in place. Okay, and we are going to stitch down this side across the bottom and up the other side at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is different than the regular 1/2 inch seam allowance that we've been doing. So you want to make sure you're doing a 1/4 inch seam allowance because we're about to do French seams, and I will explain more about that in just a moment. So backstitch really well all the way to the top, and then stitch down the side at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Pivot at the bottom and sew across the bottom at a 1/4 inch. And up the last side. So check to make sure that your stitches caught all 4 layers the whole way around. And then we're going to trim these corners here, just a diagonal across the corners to get rid of some of that bulk for when we turn. Do the same up here at the sides. Just like that. Okay, next with this open zipper, we are going to turn this whole thing through the open zipper so that it is now right side out. Okay. So this is our pocket so far. And next we are going to clip all of these edges. We're going to really roll the seams in our fingers so that they open up as far as possible, and then clip them all the way around. And next we're going to top stitch down this side across the bottom and up the other side at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And that's a pretty wide top stitch, but the reason that we're doing that is because it's going to finish off our French seam, which means we stitched these wrong sides together at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then we turned it right side out. So if you look inside the pocket, you'll see all of those raw edges. But when we stitch at a 1/2 inch seam allowance down here, that's going to encase all of the raw edges so that you will no longer see them inside the pocket. Okay. Back stitch at the start and the stop, and then look inside your pocket to make sure that all of those raw edges were encased in your 1/2 inch seam allowance. Yep, I can't see any of my raw edges inside this pocket. So that is what is called a French seam, and I really like doing pockets that way. Next, you're going to decide which of the liner panels you want to attach your zip slip pocket to. And I generally like to put my slip zip pocket down on the liner panel that has the slip pocket, not the zipper pocket. That way I can have a zipper on both sides of my bag. So what we're gonna do is measure 1 inch up from the bottom of the liner panel from the cutout edge. 1 inch up from this edge, not 1 inch up from the very bottom. And I'm gonna make sure that I'm doing 1 inch on this side and 1 inch on that side. And that's how you know that you are straight. And then we're also going to center the pocket. So while holding this down in place, I'm gonna clip it by folding over the liner panels and clipping the liner and the zip slip pocket at the same time. And what you want to make sure of is that the liner of the slip pocket is not getting caught in your clips. And then I'm going to fold the bottom of the liner up. So the edge of the slip zip pocket is right here in the fold of that liner, and it's just holding that to the liner without having to use pins or something like that. So we are going to fold the pocket liner from the slip pocket here, from this slip pocket. We're going to fold that up and out of the way, and then we are going to stitch down this edge of the slip zip pocket, unclipping as we go so that we can pivot and stitch across the bottom and then stitch up to the top at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now it's at this step that I made the interfacing for the liner of the slip pocket optional, because we are going through quite a bit of thickness right here on the edge of the pocket. And if we omitted the interfacing on the liner of the pocket, that'll get rid of quite a bit of layers to sew through. But if you have just a regular quilting cotton, it shouldn't be a problem to stitch through that. So you're going to stitch on the pocket and through the liner panel at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I'm approaching the bottom of my zip slip pocket here, so I'm going to want to unclip the bottom of this liner so that I have access now to turn this corner and stitch along the bottom. Okay, approach the other side, so I am unclipping and I'm going to end my stitches back stitching at the top here. Now for stability, I did back stitch at the start and stop of these stitches because we want to make this pocket super strong. So when you maybe pull on the pocket to get inside, there's a lot of tension right here on the corners of the pocket. So actually what I do additionally is add a rivet right here. So I am going to make a mark for a rivet hole right in between those two lines of stitches. And I'm just going to eyeball it about 3/8, quarter of an inch or 3/8 away from the top of the pocket. And I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but that is my rivet hole in between those two stitches. And I'm just going to make sure that my liner pocket is pulled up and out of the way. And I'm going to punch a hole for my rivet. Same on this side. And since I'm using cotton, I am going to add a dot of fray check. On the back as well. Okay, I'm going to pass a rivet through the front of that pocket and again on this side here. And then on the back side, this is where you're going to want to stabilize your rivets. And over here I have a bowl of these that I just pre-cut and punch before I start a project. This is just scraps of Peltex stabilizer that I cut into small squares and then punch a hole through, so I can quickly just grab a couple and put them on the back of the rivets before I install the cap. Now this is because when you're pulling on this pocket, and that rivet is going to help stabilize it from the front, but it's only going to have the thin cotton liner panel to grab onto. So putting this stabilizer behind the rivet will help the rivet grip the liner panel without pulling through or creating a hole in your liner panel over time. So I'm going to set these rivets and then we will be done with this liner panel.